listening to Range Minded from Independence Indoor Shooting. This is episode 126, and we've brought Cody Coleman of Red Right Hand back, this time to talk about everything AKs. You know, it seems like most of the attention on rifles go to AR-15s, so we picked Cody Coleman's brain on the similarities and differences between ARs and AKs, a little bit of history of the AK platform, and the reason why you should have one of each. One quick note, there is a curse word or two in this episode, so just be advised of that. But thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoy episode 126 of Range Minded, the official AK episode with Cody Coleman. Hello and welcome to Range Minded from Independence Indoor Shooting. My name is Mark Long, and I'm joined in person again by
Steve Zimmerman.
And
Nick Hoffer.
He's back again.
I think I'm going to stick around.
I think you are. I think
we
you are
should
going to stick around.
He followed us home. Can we keep him?
I don't know. He's going to have to clean up. You're going to have to clean him up first.
I'm really cute, though. Like not like a puppy, more like a rat, like a cat.
As long as you take the trash out.
Yeah. See, there we go.
So you just got to earn your keep. And yeah, as you heard, we're joined again by Cody Coleman.
Yep, I'm here again. Happy to be here.
Of
Red Right Hand.
Right Hand. That's
Red
hard.
Right Hand.
Once you know the order, it really does roll off the tongue. But it's like there's a lot of R's that you can get confused. But Red Right Hand in Nampa, doing custom Glock work and stippling and gunsmithing and making real cool stuff.
Yep.
So, and a man of many words.
Man of many words, many talents, I guess.
But the way to get you to be the man of many words is talk about AKs.
I love AKs.
We have not done an AK episode in the over 120 episodes we've done. We have not done an AK episode, and it's all Steve's fault.
I talked about AKs last time I was on.
You did, but I wanted to do like a dedicated AK episode.
How is it my fault?
Because you're not.
Because you don't like AKs.
Don't be a
That's
hater.
why.
That is incorrect. I just happened to sell mine at a great profit margin, and I had to buy more guns, and so I bought like
other guns.
other stuff.
That's just business right there.
It's about quantity right now.
I didn't know Steve owned guns.
Quality's better.
I lost them all. We already know
there
this.
we go.
Yeah.
If we don't get that in every episode, I'll
it
be
already is.
disappointed.
It already is.
You know, in the beginning, if we've had listeners from the beginning, they'd remember that I did dad jokes every episode.
That's true.
I've
Those
been
have
on
gone
a
by the
lot of
wayside.
episodes, and I can tell you I haven't listened to every episode.
I'm not going to lie. I don't even listen to them after I'm done. I was here. I didn't live it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's because you lived it.
Well, I used to be really excited to listen to the ones that I was on.
You used to be excited.
Well, no, it's because I always wanted to hear how dumb I sounded, and then after a few of them, I was like, I'm just gonna leave it up to everyone else to judge.
You don't sound that dumb.
I've listened to a lot of the ones I wasn't on, but
And then you realize we sound dumb.
But then when I'm here, I kind of know what we talked about already.
Right. You don't need to listen.
Yeah.
You lived it.
Yeah,
you lived it.
Yeah. So
It's like you don't take pictures when you go somewhere. 'Cause you're like, I've been there.
I lived
Why am I
it.
going to share this with everybody else? Why don't you get out there and go see what I saw?
So
Yeah.
Cody loves social media. That's where we'll start.
Yeah, no, I really don't.
But no, I wanted to do a dedicated AK episode because there's a lot of new shooters out there, and we've talked about handguns, we've talked about ARs, but if you want a rifle and maybe you can't get an AR, it's just maybe they're not in stock, or maybe it doesn't do it for you, an AK could be an option, right?
If you can find them right now. But
If you can find them.
AKs are definitely a good fighting rifle option.
Yeah.
All day long.
And you love AKs.
I like AKs.
Why do you like AKs?
The rugged simplicity of an AK. I like that. You don't have to do a whole lot for the damn thing to keep running.
There's not that many parts, really.
No, they're pretty basic.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, if a 10-year-old can shoot an AK and be proficient, it's probably a pretty good gun.
Well, you've seen the videos where the monkey shoots the AK, even though that's not real.
it's
But
not real.
but you can imagine if it was.
If it was real.
If it was real, how awesome would that be?
It's simple to teach somebody to use one in a hurry. You know, they're not very complicated. It's a battle rifle. You know, it's great for average people aren't shooting out to 1,000 yards anyway. 200 yards is a real big long gunfight. AK is perfectly sound to all that stuff. So
I have a hard time judging if an individual is a threat at 200 yards.
Yeah.
exactly. But for standard modern day fighting distances for rifles, the AK is plenty good.
Yeah.
It's going to get the job done, and it's usually cheap to shoot, which is
So
always
I
nice.
find that I can almost always, I haven't looked now, but judging from 2013 era when I had my AKs, I still have one, but I had 10 back then. The round, the 7.62 by 39 round was much easier to come across back when we were importing steel case ammo.
Yeah. Right.
And I think only 2-3 weeks ago did I notice the last of what's been kind of in distribution has been bought up. Like, it took a while for that to go away compared to like 5.56 or 9mm, of course, lately.
Yeah.
You know, AK ammo is easy to stock deep too, and it's usually cheap. So when it's cheap, buy it and just fill a closet full of it. You know.
Well, on AKs, like we have the Century Arms AK now. You can get that for fairly inexpensive, less than you can get an AR.
I wouldn't go with the RAS 47 personally, but
I own, that's the one I own.
I'm sorry, buddy.
I mean, I had some expensive ones, but I, like Steve said, had to sell them because I was offered too much money.
Yeah. I got two that I just won't give up. They're just too unique.
So that's one of the big things I think that's harder to figure out with AKs rather than ARs is like the quality, because there's Romanian and Russian and Yugoslavian and different importers, and there's a couple of American made AKs. What do you think makes a good AK?
Steel, then construction. So the quality of the material that was actually made out of. So like Yugoslavian steel for the most part in all the kits that came over, they use those big bulge trunnions that everybody thinks are super tough. Because the quality of steel is so poor, they have to have a bigger trunnion to keep the longevity of the weapon going. Where the Russians have a normal size trunnion, the Polish have the normal size trunnion. Those countries don't have an EPA. You can put a lot of nickel in steel. So high alloy steel like that lasts longer. Right. So I like Russian and Polish made guns because the quality of steel that went into the foundries to actually make those guns. So if you're a snob like me, you're looking for kits like that. The Romanians are a close third as far as like how the steel's made, because a lot of the steel they get, again, comes from Russia and all those factories and foundries sends them that steel. And then Bulgaria is kind of softer steel. Yugoslavia is much softer steel.
Yeah.
So you want, at least when I look for an AK, I'm looking for a country of origin where I know when they're forging those parts, they're forging it with steel that
is high quality.
Is high quality for what it needs to be.
So you're a gunsmith, and I've always had this question about AKs. So do you have to get them in parts kits, or do we import any of them as complete weapons?
We do both. In the country right now, you can get both. So importing parts kits like extremely popular, but it's dwindling because the world reserves are kind of drying up. Other countries are buying out guns. Century Arms for the longest time would go around to literally the day the peace deal was signed in some country in Africa, they'd walk up to the warlord and offer him money for all their AKs. Yeah.
Wow.
Because they'd have to disarm because the UN told them you had to disarm. And then they would sit there and they'd hire 6 guys with torches on the dock, just cut them in half.
See, and I always think of that movie with, was that Zac Efron, where they got that ammo deal and they had all that illegal ammo that they sold. Is there factories of or just stores?
Oh yeah.
Of these weapons from World War II or wherever?
That's piled up everywhere. One thing I've heard through other people that talked to Mikhail Kalashnikov before he died was he said that Russia has never stopped making an AK. They've made it at full production rate since day one. They never
since
stopped
1947.
making. Yeah, they've made constant war stock, and they built guns to the level of it should be one gun or two AKs for every Russian citizen, and they accounted for population growth without
my God.
They seriously did that, and they have those big underground crazy cities in Siberia buried in the ground somewhere, and they just kept dumping ammo and guns into those giant underground caverns.
Yeah, because you can get spam cans full of 7.62 still, I think.
Oh yeah,
right?
I don't know if anyone caught that.
It's like Steve, buried in the ground.
But I mean, that's if Russian, and you got to think if Russia never stopped making them, but you also think of how many they exported at the same time of them maybe stockpiling them for their own use. My God, There's probably more AKs on this planet than there are people. And
it's the most popular rifle in the world.
Yeah. And one reason it was popular is because the CCP at the time was just, they licensed it to everybody. Get every satellite state making this, just like we did with the AR-15, try to get everybody to buy that and send it out and have them adopt it.
Except for California.
Well, it started in California, but no, not anymore.
Not anymore.
Unless it's featureless. No bayonet lug.
But can't you get full-size magazines now?
No, I thought
I think they put another stay on it.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, I think
Of course they did. You think they ever let that pass?
Oh,
It
man.
lasted for like 10 seconds.
Yeah, there was like 5 days where you could have bought those
could've.
mags. So I wonder if you bought them within those 5 days, if you're still legal to have them.
I imagine so.
I think you
I would
got a
imagine
receipt or
not. I would
something.
imagine that
I
they're
bet
like,
not.
sorry,
Not
we
in
just created
California.
40,000 new felons.
They're over there.
Like
Yeah, that was their plan the whole time.
California's plan is if we can get everyone to be a felon, that
They
means
could all fight the
can't-
fires for 8 cents an hour.
That too, but none of them can now own guns, so we don't even need gun control if we make everyone
Because everybody's a felon in California. Yeah.
Yeah. So we started with where were we at?
So
AKs.
AKs,
Well, yeah,
Russia,
AKs.
7 billion AKs in Russia.
7 billion
Deep
AKs.
space
Well,
on
so,
the
but I think it's also important to know that there aren't just AK is a platform. There's different variants
There's
of
tons
AK
of
as well.
Oh my gosh, like
there's
hundreds.
And we don't have to go
Hundreds
over
of variants.
all of them, but I mean, there's kind of like
the main ones you're going
main
to find
couple
here,
different
like
ones.
for example, in America currently as of 2020,
Yeah.
you're going to see the Romanian imports, you're going to see the Yugoslavian imports, you're going to see the very, very rare Bulgarian imports right now. What else is coming into the country?
So is Kalashnikov USA still in operation now?
Yes, they're in Texas though now. So
Okay.
what they did was basically somehow circumvented and got all the data packages from Kalashnikov Russia to Kalashnikov USA, and then they're just making that stuff off of the Russian pattern there. Now, I don't know what the quality of steel is. I haven't seen one personally. I haven't heard anything bad, but they're
Just feel like
I mean, when I think AK,
No.
that's the first name that comes to mind. So
it's
I would,
Kalashnikov. Yeah.
yeah. Well, you used to be able to get stuff from Kalashnikov Russia, and which is the subsidiary of Saiga and Molot and Kalashnikov Concern. Those guys were all conglomerated under Putin or whatever, and so when they invaded Crimea, goddamn Obama went out there. Oh my God, we're gonna ban them. So you can't import anything from them because they're trying to economic sanction them.
Yeah.
So we used to get
Should build a
Russian
wall.
guns, but now we can't.
I think, can you
There
still
would be
get
better ways under Trump to economically hurt them.
Can you still get a Sega without a as like a sporter
Oh, yeah.
rifle?
I mean,
because that's a way around it too.
Well, those would be just already currently on shore, so you can
Oh,
only
I
buy
see.
what's already
Yeah.
been imported. So
Bring-
they can't
bring
bring
stuff
any
in is
more
the
in.
problem.
They haven't brought any more in since like 2014 or 2015.
Gotcha.
Whenever that.
But we've
picked
come up with variants within the U.S.
Yes.
to replicate that.
yeah,
So,
that's true.
But like for imports currently, you're only seeing a handful of countries, and then you're seeing parts kits out of Poland from a WBP factory.
So
Other than that, then the rest of them are manufactured here.
talking about parts kits, not as simple. Well, it's simple in in theory, but
It's not.
it's a little bit.
Building an AK is literally old timey gunsmithing.
You can't do it
It's
in
the
your-
most gunsmithable
You can't do it in your
assault
garage.
rifle out there.
Yeah.
Whereas an
No such thing
AR-15,
as
you
assault
just
rifle. That's a made-up term.
it's an assault rifle.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for your input, Steve.
Yeah. no one cares.
So at one point, I bought a receiver that was flat and didn't realize that I had to.
Yeah, you gotta
Stamp it
fold
into
that
place.
thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then weld in rails.
Yeah, that's the
And then
thing. I
heat
was
treat it.
I was like, I'm pretty confident. Like I've worked for a firearms manufacturer. I think I could manage this. So I bought this when I was at a gun show in Arizona, and I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be awesome. I'm gonna build my own gun." It's not a Polymer 80.
No.
No.
By far.
There was welding, and there was
Stamping.
blueprints, and stamping,
Yeah.
and you need Cody.
You need serious tooling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
A
you can-
press,
even like the few options out there to get like into the cheapest way of getting tooling, even that cheap tooling still doesn't do the job quite right. Like you still need to step up. So your initial investment's huge. It's like, oh, I'm going to make my own AK. Cool. You're going to make an AK. It's going to cost you $700. Okay. You got your kit and your few parts. All the tools are going to cost you $1,800 to $1,900 to get involved in.
See, and I learned that a second time when I wanted an HK.
Yes, that will do that too. But so okay, you want to make your own gun? You're going to buy $1,900 of tooling to just do one. You might as well do 10. Like
There are. I've seen it online that there are places that like offer like classes
build
and group
classes.
build classes to do AKs, but you're ending up kind of paying twice as much for an AK,
You're still
even
gonna-
though you built it yourself.
you're still
But
going to be paying $2,500 or north worth of that. But you're going to have the knowledge, and you're probably going to learn from an amazing instructor and a guy who's been doing it for a long time.
You're getting your money's worth. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, I guess what I meant to say is the operation of an AK is not that complicated. There's really not that much going on.
No, operating it as a complete unit and you're going to shoot it, very easy. It's pretty.
That's what makes it so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's beauty in the simplicity.
Yeah, and it's a rugged gun. You just treat it like crap, and it just doesn't care.
Can you explain kind of what the difference is? Because I think most people understand the basics of how an AR operates. Obviously, you're still using gas for recoil operation and everything with an AK, but can you explain the difference between piston and direct impingement?
Well, not going into a massive rabbit hole. I'll do my best.
I so had a place I was not gonna go, and now I have a question. So finish this one.
Well, let's just explain it like to a 5-year-old, what the difference is.
Let's just say Steve has no idea.
Yeah. So you pull the trigger, hammer goes forward, hits the firing pin, detonates your round, right?
Right.
Gases travel down the barrel. Gases hit the port in the gas block are forced upward, and they hit on the face of what's called the piston. And the piston's attached to your carrier. So that goes all the way back to the gun, back over your bolt and your firing pin. And so
different from an AR where it would go through a tube and then push the bolt back.
Yeah, it would unlock the bolt from that inside its own, it's essentially...
So the pistons don't lock into the barrel?
No, the piston's not locked into the barrel at all. The bolt's locked into a trunnion on an AK.
Okay.
So there's, without, we're trying to talk to this people that have no idea what I'm talking about. Yeah. Without pictures available here.
Hold on, I got crayons.
Yeah, we'll draw it on crayon. So, the carrier gets impinged with the piston getting gas pushed on it. So as the carrier starts to unlock, there's a groove inside the carrier which starts to rotate the bolt out of the trunnion. It's like a 2-lug system. Mm-hmm. It unlocks and then begins to move forward, move to the rear on a big spring guide rod in the back, which is your recoil spring. And that comes all the way back, picks up the next round. The gases then vent out the front of the gas block off the front of the piston. Once that gas is gone, there's nothing there holding it back, so then the spring takes over on the recoil
and pushes back.
The carrier forward, locks the bolt, feeds the next round, locks the bolt.
And big difference from an AR, there's no buffer tube. That spring is in the top of the receiver.
All that action happens in the receiver, which is almost 11 inches long.
Which is why you can have folding stock AKs without having to have a $400 adapter.
Right.
And you can fire it without the stock.
Yep. Yes.
Or an underfolder.
It's all contained up front. Mm-hmm. So that's in a nutshell.
And anyone who's taken apart an AK without knowing and pulled the dust cover off and had the spring fly all over the place would know what I've gone through.
Yes.
But I think and the reason I wanted you to explain that is because that's kind of what makes it more rugged. Is there's less moving parts and there's a full solid piston and a whole one big piece that moves, which means that debris and dirt and anything that can get jammed in there doesn't really affect the action of the gun that much, which is why it's so simple to operate.
Yeah.
And your tolerances are different too.
Your tolerances are looser. So I mean,
sure.
there's pros and cons to this because there's a lot of good stuff out there. If you watch in-range TV, those guys are great. Ian and Carl, they did do a torture test on an AK, which proves that also, though, the really loose tolerances on an AK can also be a bad thing.
Sure.
So mud and debris gets into that gun, and you either inhibit the locking of the lugs on the trunnion in the bolt, or you get a bunch of rocks in your trigger group, well, you're going to have a bad day. The AR-15 is a better sealed system when it comes to that. So it could have, take more abuse from the outside, but if the AR-15 has too much carbon in it and all that stuff, it starts to get sluggish, where the AK doesn't care about the carbon and the stuff that's accumulating from the actual operation and use of the gun. So in that way, it does run longer, unless you're doing a meltdown test like our Veteran 88, where you just start blowing all the primer pocket juice into the piston and into the bolt and then lodging the firing pin. But that's
again things that us average shooters don't do.
Yeah, you won't have that.
But wasn't it Mac that was putting gummy bears and peanut butter sandwiches?
Yeah,
and then there was Carnicon who
maybe it was
Dugan Ashley put a ham sandwich in there and it still ran just
ham
fine.
Ham sandwich still runs. Awesome. I mean, it's extremely reliable still, though, even with its susceptibility to dirt.
So I know that AR platforms have adopted the piston system, but they still have to use. Haven't put the spring into the receiver.
No, they're still operating with the standard AR-15 recoil system.
So do you gain the rigidity of the AK system by doing that?
Not really. I mean, you get certain pros to the AK. The AK keeps all its heat out at the gas block up front for the most part. AR-15s traditionally with the gas tube, you're bringing the heat back into the receiver, and
I've never shot an AK suppressed. That I remember, I might have, but like running an AR suppressed, you just get all that gas in your face.
It blows back in your face, yeah.
But
so I would think with an AK or a piston system, you would get that gas in your hands out of the.
Yeah, you get it on your
Out of the
hands and
vents
handguard.
out
You
front.
still do get blow by on the piston with an AK.
I think it's gonna happen no matter
It's going
what.
to happen no matter what. You still have a tube going back to your receiver. As far as like your AR-15 with the buffer tube and all that stuff, it's still its own system. It's not really copying the AK in that regard. It's just trying to put the heat out as forward as possible.
Well, and then
when
like,
you put a piston on it.
like you're talking about, like you could go to the BRN. It'll like Brownells are selling their brown uppers or whatever that all their springs are up top.
No, that's a 180.
What the BRN, right? That's
The BRN 180 is basically an AR 180 from back in the day, and that's just a short stroke gas piston.
but
which is
but the springs are on top.
So
the
that
recoil's
has
on top.
So there's no buffer tube.
Correct.
on that.
I mean, it fits on
Fits on an AR-15.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to look into that. I've never seen that.
It's pretty dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause
I don't know that I'll buy one. Cody's shaking his head no,
You
but
don't like
I
it?
want to just see it because I'm not familiar.
fascinated,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm not familiar with that. So,
Yeah.
like I said,
Well,
I resonate with the new shooters, Steve.
Yeah.
I'm
You're hip.
not the guru. Okay.
You've got a beard like a guru, though.
Yeah,
Hello,
it's
fellow
different-
children.
Different type of guru, not a gun guru.
Yeah. One thing.
A gunroo.
One thing that I think maybe people don't realize too is that you can customize an AK a little bit more than some people would think.
A
little bit.
can
Not a ton
you can bolt
necessarily,
on some
but-
stuff,
I saw an
you know,
optic on one once.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You can put red dots on them and scopes.
Actually update them. You should the Russian special operations guys have some super Gucci AKs they got rail systems nowadays. They the newer AKs that are being developed in Russia are just as modular as an AR-15 just about, except for they just can't pull the barrel out of the trunnion.
That's because Putin was like, "I see your AR, and we will beat it with the AK."
Yes, they are they're die hard for that system. I mean, and for their climate, it's also better. An AK in Arctic conditions is tenfold better than an AR-15.
He didn't say that, folks. He did not. He did not just diss America.
Oh, sorry. I love the AR-15 too, but
Well,
if I'm going to be in the tundra or something, I'm taking an AK.
Let's go down that rabbit hole a little bit, because in the last episode, Nick asked AR or AK, and Cody gave the standard "it depends" answer.
depends.
So what does it depend on?
Oh, I like it at elevation. I'd rather take an AK. I really like AKs when you're up in the mountains, up high. Where you're going to have cold weather change to hot weather change. You're going to have moisture in the air and all that stuff. It's just that gun's going to be less susceptible to
The elements.
The elements when you're.
I'm gonna give Cody the whole cold weather thing because, being that the AR is an American platform, we have seasons, and in the lower 48, it's pretty rare that we're in a cold season more than 5 months.
4 or 5 months a
You
year.
have never been to North Dakota.
We'll see.
I've never been to North Dakota in December, but
I have.
I've been there
It's
in July, and it's not cold.
It's absolutely
when you
awful in the wintertime.
when you look at Russia, it spans 11 time zones,
Yeah.
and most of it is literally above the Arctic Circle.
Yeah, it's pretty cold.
And what's below the Arctic Circle is still like being in northern parts of
So
America.
for where it was designed, from what I just learned, because I didn't know this, Arctic environments, it exceeds.
Yeah. And it's got big controls, easy to use, with
true.
gloves on. The Russians, the Bakelite magazine, well, everybody thinks they just look cool. The Bakelite magazine was built to be in the Arctic because it's the steel on steel freezes.
Yeah.
So like the early M16s had steel followers, and they would freeze, and they couldn't figure out why. It's because steel on steel would freeze under cold. Russians already figured it out. They made a Bakelite body and put a steel follower in there, and the two can't freeze.
Right.
And so, like you see all the Russian soldiers in the Arctic, they all got Bakelite magazines. That's the reason why. They also do in
learn
polymer
something new.
magazines.
I didn't expect to be educated this much.
Really? That's the whole reason I
Yeah,
wanted to do this, because I knew that Cody knows
And I
everything
like
about AKs.
I don't know everything
but
about
I know
AKs.
nothing
know a
about
lot.
them apparently.
Yeah, but like, that's also why they experimented with polymer magazines way before, we even were considering it.
Before
on the air.
Magpul?
Yeah, before Magpul. Well, there's some
What
people
about
that
Pro
did.
Mag? Did they beat Pro Mag?
Thermal was doing some mags with Canada because again, Canada was
Cold
having
weather.
issues
Cold weather,
with
yeah.
the cold weather.
Yeah.
And well,
So does
ta-da.
does polymer on polymer have a problem? Because
Yes and no. It depends. I think there's actually the polymer in your follower and mag body on like an AK-74 magazine is actually two different types of polymer. So
Okay.
they have less friction.
I imagine there's
factors on
some like
that.
natural, not
So-
lubricating.
There's
So-
like a natural
so
fibrous
Steve,
plastic for
does
that.
a Min2 have a AK mag in the works?
well, I'll have to talk to Matt, but I don't think so.
Man, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
But actually, you just said AK-74, and now, I think when anybody sees an AK platform, no matter what it is, it'll be an AK-47.
Oh no! Here goes chapter
So,
2.
but
Chapter
let's talk about that. I think it's important to note that there is a difference. So
The poison
Yeah.
bullet.
the difference between the AK-47 or the regular AK platform and the AK-74. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, there's a big break that happens between 1947 and then 74 comes along. 74, they change calibers overnight, in large due to America was using the M16, and they were seeing how effective the M16 was in Vietnam with a lighter cartridge. 30 caliber cartridge in the AK-47 still does its job, but they were looking to get a lighter ammunition so you can carry more of it and try to extend the range on the AK. So like 7.6239 ballistically is a pig, 350, 400. You could shoot it further, but at that point it starts becoming less effective. Where 5.56 still maintains effectiveness out till about 5. So they wanted something to match it and kind of compete on that level. So in 1974, the Russians developed and unleashed the AK-74, which for the year it came out, and that employed a new cartridge, which is the 5.45 by 3.9. And so if you look at it next to an AR-15 round, they're very close, but they have big differences. And that lighter round, ballistically, is very comparable to 5.56. They did that to compete against us.
Right.
So
It's really just a caliber difference. The
it's a
basic
caliber difference.
operation is the same.
It's also a
and-
different trunnion. It's a different bolt pattern. So you go from short stem to long stem, which probably you guys are looking at me funny. Internal diameters are different. The carriers are different. They almost follow the same pattern, but there's some major component differences.
Is that because of the caliber difference?
Because of the caliber,
The weight-
and
the weight of the
feeds and
cartridge and
and,
such.
and the length of it.
So normally I'm the one sitting here with my hands in my lap, looking like I'm looking starstruck. But Steve isn't just not one word, hands in his lap, learning.
He's just
I'm
sucking it all in.
absorbing.
You're gonna get learned
Right.
today, Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cody's doing some learning
Yeah.
to us. Yeah, man. So do you have an AK-74? Can you get an
I have
AK-74?
both. I have both. You can have both.
So how hard is it to get ammo? Because from
So for a long time, for some reason, nobody was really embracing the AK-74 when ammunition was literally you can get 1,000 rounds for $80 in a spam can. That back in
that
08.
obviously isn't current condition.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
He
no.
prefaced that.
Yeah, back in the day, 74s were kind of slow to come to market because largely they were parts kits and people had to assemble them. Not a lot of big manufacturer guys were assembling 74s because the demand for 47s was so high. You're not going to, I'm going to sell 15 of these versus 200 of those. You're going to take the 200 over the 15. So
Right.
it took a little bit of a paradigm shift, especially with YouTube really brought along people knowing about the difference, and you started to see more manufacturers go to offerings of 74s. And for a long time, there was 7 and 6, which was the spam can ammo you could get for super cheap.
Yeah.
And you used to be able to get a crate for $189 and be 2,000 rounds of ammo.
Wow.
And it was corrosive. So that's also why a lot of people were put off by it, because this ammunition was made in the 70s. It was corrosive. Like, oh, I have to clean my gun? Dude,
Kind
it does not matter. Just clean your gun. It's
Yeah.
at the end of
We'll
the
talk
world.
about what corrosive means, because I think a lot of people don't know what that is either, because we're spoiled.
Corrosive ammunition, inside the primer, they have some salts. So when you blow up that salt, it kind of travels to your gun. Well, salt on steel equals rust.
Bad news bears.
Bad news bears, especially when it gets moist.
Yeah.
So
So what happens once you fire a bunch of that?
well, you should clean it. Otherwise, you start getting surface rust, and then you start getting coral rust, and then you start getting pitting.
And then
if you don't take care of this, I mean, I'm talking months after shooting a bunch.
So then 6 months later, after I've done this, and I go and start shooting again, what happens to my gun?
Well, it probably will work because it's an AK. However, your accuracy starts to degrade, your parts breakage starts to become up. You start having more issues with it.
So my gun's not going to explode?
No, I did one time.
Because I hear corrosive, and I'm like, oh god, it's catastrophic.
Oh no, it's not catastrophic. Take it from the guy that I had at the time I couldn't, when I built my 74, I had to build my 74 because there wasn't offerings for it.
Right.
But I wanted to shoot the ammunition. Also, nobody was making chrome line barrels for them in the United States. And nobody else was spending the time to just nitride a AK barrel. So they're like, yeah, it's either Parkerized or you get the barrel in chrome, but that you can only get those options in 7.62.
Oh man, I haven't heard Parkerized in since I started in the firearms
I know,
industry.
right?
We used to Parkerize barrels when I first started in the gun industry, and I thought I was like, oh, that's like cutting edge.
Cutting edge. No, Parkerized has been forever.
Like, all the 1911 stuff we did, it was all Parkerized, and then they came out and they were like, you guys should nitride this.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's that? And then the guys who were doing it came around and they're like, it's so much better. And we're like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
and now it's
whatever.
Well, but
Now that's all we do.
Yeah, I know. But this was back before that. So, I had my first gun I put together did not have a chrome line barrel in it. And I shot a lot of corrosive ammo out of it. I'm a gunsmith. It's kind of like being a guy who's a cook or a mechanic. They don't like to cook or work on their own vehicles. I don't like cleaning my own guns because I'm a gunsmith. That's what I do a lot.
Yeah, you do it all day. The last
for a
thing you
long
want to do.
time, I didn't clean my AK-74, which I don't recommend you doing with corrosive ammo after a while. But, I shot it for years, maybe power washed it off twice.
Yeah.
And it got rusty.
He had a foam gun for cleaning his guns.
Yeah, and it was fine. It looked like crap. I eventually had the barrel pulled and I put a Russian 545 chrome line barrel in it. Now it's golden. I don't have to care. But if you don't have chrome or something harder that rust doesn't eats up.
Yeah.
You don't want to shoot a bunch of corrosive ammunition with your gun.
Now, do you have to worry about that with 7.62 by 3.9?
No. That ammunition ship sailed many years ago. It's really hard to find corrosive 7.63 now. Nowadays everything's new manufacturer or recent manufacturer, and that's not corrosive.
Yeah.
So.
I feel like there's a warehouse in China of corrosive 7.62 right there.
Or buried in Siberia somewhere. Yeah.
Just waiting until we go to war, and they're like, oh, we have the last of the 7.2 by 6.9. Yeah. 7.62.
Send it to America.
Send it to America. Well, we can't import anything from China.
Well, it'll come through. It'll come through.
Now
We'll
bag it. We'll bag it and made in the U.S.
Yeah, right.
It'll go to Mexico and then come up.
Yeah.
But I guess speaking of kind of like ammo and the rigidity or the ruggedness of an AK is you can shoot crappier ammo out of it and it'll just eat it, no problem. Maybe some people, especially with 22, they realize that their guns only like certain brands of ammo or certain velocities of ammo, whatever, or else will get jamming and other issues or whatever.
AKs would chew it up.
Yeah.
Will it be very accurate? Probably not. It depends. There's some really crappy steel case out there, and you're lucky if you get an 8-inch group at 50.
I feel like AKs are quantity over quality.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a lot of those countries they were. I mean, if you go here to America and you get a good quality parts kit that's untouched, which you can find those, and you take it to a good builder, you can have an AK that's far better than anything.
But even with accuracy, I feel like it's quantity over quality. Like more rounds is more important than an inch group.
Well, with the Russians, they didn't care,
Yeah.
But I have seen AK shoot sub-MOA. It's builder.
He obviously doesn't have a Century Arms.
No. Definitive arms, my friend. Definitive arms.
So if you had to if money were, I guess, no option or no concern.
It is no option.
And
it's
no option.
And you have a time machine so you can go get stuff?
Yeah, sure.
Is that what you're saying?
Well, let's say on the market now, if you could pick one AK that you had to buy, what would be the one that you would look at?
Again, shameless plug for my best friend because he's the only guy I trust to build my AKs, Definitive Arms.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If he pops out with anything and you see it on Copper Customs, buy it. You are getting the best gun for the money, hands down. That guy is so into AKs, nothing's overlooked.
Wow.
And I stand by that. So.
And so, being a fan of AKs and ARs, you think everybody should probably have both, like me, right?
Everybody should have one. Good old Clint Smith, Yeah, Thunder Ranch, great guy. You should have one or know how to use one and hit a pipe at 25 yards. Everybody needs to do that with an AR-15 and an AK-47. I prefer you to shoot further than what Clint Smith says. But
Sure.
realistically, you should all know how to use an AK because you're going to run across them. And 74 and 47, the method of operation of you shooting it is exactly the same. So it doesn't matter if you pick up 47 or 74.
That's what I used to tell this guy, Mark, about knocking stuff off the
Easy
table.
killer.
That's what I told him about Glocks.
Yeah.
Everybody should have one and know how to use one.
Exactly.
And you're right.
Because everybody's going to run into
You're
one.
gonna
I listened to you, yeah.
Nowadays, too, I mean, 10 years ago, you probably wouldn't run into AK as much as you do now. AK popularity really soared after 2013. And
Because they were available. Because,
they were available.
I mean, we were selling $300 ARs for $1,300.
Yeah.
And I was running around buying all the AKs.
Yeah. And, well, you also look at now, though, too, again, the rise of YouTube and guys like Tim Hartzman on Military Arms Channel, and you got Rob Ski of AK Operators Union. I mean, those guys are influential in bringing the AK to the market to the level that we see today. Just like the AR-15s. Yeah, no one really was really big into AR-15s, even in 06, after 2 years after the ban went down. It was still like, oh, you got that scary gun.
I
and then now with YouTube, everybody's like, wait, you don't have an AR-15? Like,
what's the matter with you?
Yeah, what's the matter with you?
My local gun store, that I graduated high school 2006, and I went, right after I graduated, I took some of the money that I got from graduation, and I went to the gun. I was like, I want to buy a gun. And they were like, oh, you can buy this. And I was like, you can get a military rifle? Hell yeah, I'll take that and 1,400 rounds. And I shot 200 rounds out of it, had it for a year, and sold it. Because I was like, this isn't as exciting as I thought it was going to be.
It's just another rifle.
Yeah. Like, how come it doesn't shoot all the bullets?
Yeah.
Like,
they don't hold the trigger.
Like it does in the movies or in video games.
This is not like the movies. And then it wasn't until 2012 when I came into the firearms industry where I was like, I need to get another AR. And then 2013 came around, and I was a part of the firearms industry, and then it was a gun scare. Bang, I was buying all the AKs, all the shotguns.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was...
Because ARs were too expensive for me.
In 08, I was... My first year in the gun industry was 08. I was still in high school. I was working with Frank DeSoma at POF.
Yeah.
And so when that... I know. Rest his soul. I love that guy. But, yeah. So we were working then, and 08 hit, and man, Obama sold us all the guns, and everybody suddenly wanted to like buy guns at that rate, and it was it was incredible to see how just boom, how like all of a sudden more people got into AR-15s, then you started seeing everybody want one, and then the panic kind of died off, but then you still saw it climbing as people ownership because 3-gun matches got better, 2-gun matches got formed. Then you see, again, YouTube, you see all these people showing off what you can do with an AR-15, and then before you know it, everybody and their brother has one.
Yeah.
And so the same thing happened with the AK.
And I think we should produce 3 for every U.S. resident.
Oh, yeah.
3, just so we have one there the Russians.
Yes. Just bury that stuff under Cheyenne Mountain or something.
We should bury them
Only
all
3?
under Steve's house.
Yes.
There might be room.
But everybody should have an AK, and everybody should have.
There is a very high metal content underneath Steve's house.
You don't come to my house with a metal detector or a magnet.
Yeah.
Or a magnet.
No, that was when I remember after I built my first AR, I remember seeing I think it was an AK on YouTube or online or something like that. I'm like, wait, you can get those? Mm-hmm. Like those are the Russian guns. Like I didn't know you can even get those. I mean, and this was like 2 years into the firearms world.
If you were gonna claim something was an assault rifle,
wouldn't you go after an AK?
I would say AKs. Like, just because it's called an AR-15, like, if I was to think, like, what is the most deadly gun in the world? Like, that shoots 30 rounds per second out of a mag clip. That's an AK.
Yeah, right.
And it's gold or nickel-plated. And they're riding in a convertible in Africa. That would be in my mind.
Or a Toyota pickup truck usually.
A Hilux, four-door Hilux.
Yeah, that you can't get in the U.S.
Damn it.
The coolest Toyota made, you can't get here.
I would even buy one of those.
Yeah.
And I'm not a truck guy.
You would be.
I would be if I could get a Hilux. Yeah, man.
We had them on the base over in Kuwait.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
Our shop got one. It was so cool.
Yeah. You can't destroy them.
So we should, if we're banning anything, it's the Hilux and the AK.
In this country? Well,
I don't like that idea.
No, I don't want
freedom, damn it.
Well, AKs have been notoriously chased after by politicians since they really started coming to the States.
Really?
Yeah. You saw a lot of Vietnam bringbacks. Those were the first AKs really to kind of come to shore.
Right.
Because those guys were able to bring them back, have war trophies, all the cool stuff. Mm-hmm. Then, for the most part, largely those were actually Chinese-made AKs because China supported Vietnam.
Right.
Yeah.
And then in the 80s and stuff, you started seeing some people got parts kits in, but then Polytech and Norinco kind of decided to start importing guns from China. And so people then still didn't want them. It's $200 Chicom garbage. Why the fuck would we buy this? It's got to be terrible.
Man, could you imagine getting one for $200?
Yeah, dude,
right
a Polytech Legend now
Man.
is worth like $2,000 or north of that.
That's
especially if they're
insane.
unused.
And I know it's not.
For $2,000, you could have bought 2 cases back then.
Well, imagine being a distributor back then. If it cost retail $200,
Yeah, they were-
distributor cost
Yeah.
on that would have been
Like
like
$50.
$50,
$75, yeah.
Like the markup on those things were incredible.
Well, I know it's not quite the same, but my SKS, I got my SKS when I was.
you could buy those for like $75.
They were
Yeah.
cheap.
you can buy them
Just
out
as
of
cheap
barrel
as
pretty much.
Yeah.
just as cheap as like most of the guns. Like I
Yeah.
bought mine most of the gun like for $100 and something, and
I
that
knew
was
guys that bought
expensive.
most of the guns for $30.
And you
Yeah.
overpaid.
Always-
I did. I know I did.
It
Yeah.
always blows my mind. Like, I used to work with this kid, and he was like, I got this Mosin Nagant. And he's like, I'm like, how much did you pay for that? And he's like, $250.
Oh my god.
Oh God!
And I'm like, oh my God, dude, this is like a $40 gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just because there's so many of them.
Yeah.
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 But like they imported quite a bit of them in that time frame, and then some.
In wooden crates.
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah,
You could buy a crate of
For
them
$250, you could
You
have bought
bought a
all of
whole,
them.
Yeah.
a whole crate
literally,
of
a
them.
whole crate.
Yeah.
But then of course, I think it was some school shooting or something that happened in California during the Reagan administration, right at the beginning of the Bush administration, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Was. And I think the kid used like a Tech 9 or something. Didn't even use an AK. Immediately, all importation of all foreign-made weapons that were deemed assault rifles.
Typical politician style.
Yeah.
They probably showed the AK.
Yeah, they showed the AK, and so George Bush Sr. banned all importations.
This kid
on
used a lawn dart to
quote-unquote
kill
assault
somebody, but,
rifles
well,
from
put an
other
AK.
countries.
Yeah, which is
terrible, right?
Hey,
so
lawn darts are dangerous. Have you ever tried to catch one?
I did catch one.
Obviously not the bad way, because you're still here.
most of them.
I got a plate in my head though now, so.
There you go. But I
Yeah.
mean, so that put a kibosh on AKs for a little bit, and then they had to go, well, now we got to work around the import law, and then that's when we got thumb-hold stock AKs and
Right.
single
Or the
stack
sporter
magazines.
AKs
and that lasted till the 94 ban when they made 922R compliances and all that nonsense, and the
Thanks,
AK market
William.
suffered tremendously from that. It could have
Yeah.
really took off, but those two bills, the importation bill and the crime bill, like totally just put the kibosh on AKs.
Would it be going too far down the rabbit hole to talk about 922R, or do you want to touch on that real quick?
It's dumb. 922R, they just basically were like, so to force you from not importing a full gun, you'd have to build it. Well, if you had to build it, you couldn't use all the parts in the parts kit. They wanted you to manufacture 6 American parts because the government got together and named 16 parts out of the gun, which there's not 16 parts. There's a lot more than that. But they claimed the 16 major parts of the gun, and they did some stupid math that they made up in their heads on the spot, because that's how they make rules, and said, okay, well, 6 of these parts out of the 16 must be made in America for you to assemble this into a rifle with features. So keeping bayonet lugs, pistol grips, using a 30-round magazine.
Is that still in effect then too?
Yes,
Yeah.
922R is still in effect, and my God, you should see the amount of people that have no idea that exists and still tries to show me their homemade gun. It does not have any of the compliancy parts on it.
That's
Because
why I wanted to bring it up.
So no one knows that you have to have American-made parts on your parts kit gun.
Right.
That's why if you're building a gun, you need to do the research on all your local laws and federal laws. And 922R compliance is the dumbest thing ever. You can thank
But it's
Clint
still
for
a
that,
law,
but it's
unfortunately.
still a law.
Yeah.
We know we can work on repealing that, but we need everybody to write to GOA and complain a lot so we can overturn it in Washington. But good luck.
Well,
with that.
hopefully this episode will convince a lot of AK fans to do that.
Or
Yes.
create a lot of
Yeah,
AK fans
create-
and then
yeah,
go
well,
from there.
And then
Or just have Cody build the AK for you. You don't have to worry about compliance.
we
Right.
can do that, or get some good builders to do it, or buy one that's already done.
Yeah, anything that comes in, I think, is already 922R
Like
compliant.
so Century Arms, when they would bring in guns, they would put on Century-made parts here in the United States-wise. That way, you would be in compliance as the owner,
right?
To do that.
God, it's so frustrating.
It is frustrating.
It's all that weird red tape, man.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that.
Freedom, right there.
Yeah. And it's like an American-made trigger is no more quote-unquote deadly than the trigger made in China or Romania or wherever. It's literally an exact copy of it. It's just made in the United States.
But that's a communist trigger.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
That's a freedom trigger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anything else to say on AKs, and we'll close it out otherwise?
Buy one.
AKs are life.
Yeah. Buy one. Learn how to use it. You should definitely have one.
Enjoy it.
Considering
Stands for also cool.
Also cool with a K.
Is that like
cool way of spelling cool?
KOOL. Yeah.
That's like those cigarettes they tried to sell me in high school.
Yeah.
Literally the same thing. Cool cigarettes. Yeah.
They both smoke, so that's okay.
There's the dad joke for that.
And they'll both kill you
Oh, what? No.
when used in the wrong way.
Yes. I guess. What about the rifle?
No, I was talking about the cigarettes.
Don't eat cigarettes. Well, I think on that note, we'll end it. And if you have any questions about AKs, let us know. Podcast at iishooting.com or Instagram and Facebook. Get to us at Range Minded Podcast. Nick, where can they find you?
So you can find me at 208 Patriot on Instagram or Hoftac Industries on Instagram.
And Cody, where can they find your place of business?
You can find me on Facebook at Red Right Hand LLC, and if you look me up, I'm on there. You can message me too. So,
Perfect.
And I'm also on Instagram.
He likes messages.
Yeah.
So flood his inbox.
I challenge all of you to follow him on Instagram, redrighthand.idaho.
.idaho. You should be able to find it under there.
There you go. Cool. Well, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next time.
Yeah.
Be safe.
Thanks for listening to Range Minded. Find us online at Range Minded Podcast on Facebook, or send us an email at podcast@iishooting.com. We're always happy to get feedback, episode suggestions, whatever you want to send us, really. And be sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and pretty much wherever else you get your podcasts from. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.